On this meeting in order at 6:32. Before we start, I just want to ensure that every member of council has received a copy of this agenda for this meeting. Anyone received it? I would like to move in a seconder to approval of the agenda. Additional move. Seconded by Mr. Ward. Any comments or questions? None here. Call the question. All in favor? Move, so move. Disclosure of any interest, general nature thereof. Anybody? Easy. Minutes in the previous Port of Johnstown committee meeting. Meeting was May 23rd, 2023. Any errors or omissions? I have a mover and a seconder, please. On the minutes of May 23rd. So moved by Mr. Ward, seconded by Mayor Deschamps. All in favor? Carried. Visitors arising from the previous Port Management Committee meeting. If any errors or omissions? None? Don't believe. Okay, we're on number 7, discussion on grain shrinkage. Canadian Grain Commissioner changes. We see information out of the last meeting. Who will be speaking on this? Mr. Ballard? Mr. Saunders, you're on. Hopefully this helps explain some of the numbers mean. Thank you. Sir. I think I got them in order.
So this, was the Grain Commission that they have one in place. How to deal with grain shrinkage for primary elevators. Or is a terminal elevator, so the order didn't apply. In the past, they have some complaints on the producers on how the shrinkage is being handled by inland elevators. As the Grain Commission, they're not under the jurisdiction of the Canadian system. Not licensed as terminal elevators, they don't need to be licensed. They actually fall under the provincial jurisdiction. Therefore, they can do with the provide the producer an agreement when the grain. What they're trying to do now is they're trying to have all the licensed facilities, including terminal elevators, before under one umbrella. Which means everyone follows the exact same strict calculation. They set the bar, I guess you will, the target, moisture, right on the Canadian Grain Rate Guide. We have one online as well. And it says what is top, or what is the beginning of the moisture. They go up, they go down, they go wet. Really, what we consider top wet. So in short things, they registered top as 4.1%. So they're saying that your target has to be no less than 0.1%. This makes soybeans now 14. Soybeans, that seems to be the biggest change. The other grains of all at their moisture level is always going to be hit. So we've always used that target. 30% of the soybeans are actually developed by the trade folks. There were customers that when they took oil soybeans over by vessel, they wanted that 13%. Well, that's fully starting to shift, but I've only seen one grain lower at 13% in the last 2 years. We've seen one. We'll go back to the year where China was in dispute with the US and they bought all the Canadian soybeans, all the full growers had to be 13% with their the doctors of less than 1%. The typical is 2%, 2% raw material on the road. These were 1%. They were very dry leaves and very clean leaves were going. So that year was just exclusively at 50%. Again, the rain condition is identifying whether it's wet or up, but it's customers that decide what they're going to buy. So that's really the conflict between state and the producers. We were kind of stuck in the middle. We followed along with our customers. We're trying to love it. We're trying to stick out, so we follow their direction. Whenever we go customers have a little more, and we find specifications where it has to be and acceptable the next year like that. Well, that's kind of summarized there with your line, the order. Asking that the public to the target date was July 1st. There was a meeting with the superintendent elevator for the Toronto elevators in Ontario with the Fair Readiness Association. We held a meeting with the Drain Commission to put the other elevators in the ones that we wanted to roll it. Back a little bit, the time delays by 1 year, and we have to do the count. For us, there's really no impact. We can make a change in 5 to 10 minutes. We can have all our formulas for triggers and stolen. That's kind of it in a nutshell. The ones that I don't know, it has power coming from the not really slide is why I kind of not over with that. The leader digress and that too. So in that presentation, in the order, it defines what the calculation is concerned. I'll follow the calculation if you want. What we used to have, and for all the other grades, we used to have a mechanical strength or a hand rim. This only applies to rain. Rain to the drying losses because that's coming rain and it's blow off. Drying it. You have lines that have blown off. You have a little bit of storage and a little bit of deep snow. We had 0.5% in the week. The cereal, barley, rye, oats. Before we had 1%, and then the little different situations to get that. So the corn floating in the dark, everything goes off motor and it goes pretty dry. And soybean was the original formula was provided by the grain farmers in Ontario. That was the primary representative, and still Ontario market for. They had a direction and their membership. This is how we'll use drink. You won't have to pay any money to say elevator because of the formula we use. That last year and a half, and about put that in the research, they were thinking, you know what, why are we doing up? So I did it. In time, the market was sort of connecting the river $350 a ton. Last is something on 7,775. Current price today is the numbers filed on the index is about $600. Account price today.
What is it today, sir?
So $600
A ton? That's today though.
That's today. And tomorrow will be different. Like it will.
Could be what?
Tomorrow might be different.
Yeah.
Tomorrow fluctuate.
Is there lots of beans still out there from last year?
If you, we don't like to get delivered in September. The other ones that were sold with contract. Some of them keep them for how to get the cash price somewhere. Not like they're doing the phone. You guys trying to do. So I got this kind of gives you a breakdown. Like I can give you a breakdown of the last 3 years. Like what the shrink is today, and what the shrink will be going forward when we take out our not really like why the reason. Soybeans is a different story, but that's giving you a difference on what the short.
Hey, Joseph. Is he there?
Please trying.
Yeah.
Hasn't been able to. I have a question. Through the chair. So. Okay, so ultimately it's $1.5 million over 3 years. Less, if I'm reading it.
Projected. And that's based on These numbers are based on the moisture level of the 3 years that you're in. So by strictly, what's your point? Not the numbers they measure.
So an average of 500K per year, realistically. So, okay, so that's. Not really sure, closed session, open session, so, yes, it's a tough question, so, currently, a lot of, like, does that include the numbers that we see there, the differences? Would it include inventory that we consider excess inventory? Or is that excluding what we call excess inventory?
That's excluded. With the
So
shrink,
it's actually even a bigger impact than that to revenue.
right? What I'm showing here is on the shrink is potential. Potential shrink that you could end up with. What we will do now is look at the any lines, we'll have to start to monitor the key on it as well, that's what I to show the projected line revenue for each year. The last year, not really, was kind of good, but 2020 was kind of an average year. 2021 was a very wet year, 22 was a very dry, and just gives you an idea of what's really.
Right, so not only would we lose off of what's already materialized, we would actually lose all of the shrinkage as well, like all of the excess.
Yeah, there's still be some access. Can't tell you what level, we do, one of us, we have a large specification. We have 14% moisture and rainbow one that is considered moist. So the 14, 5, 6, we left in the most and they have over half, 50%. We can blend those out in comps and moisture. We'll be under the specification. So we're actually shipping water to the really for 5 we'll continue to work with that. That's really working out over the years. While we have our family at the moment, we did. We're managing that inventory. That's benefit, yes.
So, go ahead. So every year at the end of year, when we sell off some of that excess, will we have excess to sell off anymore?
Can't give you a yes or no answer. It depends on the season.
Like, it's a sizable chunk of revenue, right? Not like this year, it was even bigger, it was double what we normally do. Right, but like every year since I've been here, that number's been in the budget, I believe, the first part of the number, last year was different because we sold off. Like another 1 point. Correct me if I'm wrong, 1.2, 1.1 million worth or something. Additional, right. My concern is that not only we don't have that to sell off anymore, but we don't have the original number to sell off. Like under this new calculation. So like included in the budget or the end of year revenues is when we sell off some of that excess inventory. And it amounts to the equivalent of what we sold off last year, $1 million bucks, and it gets included in as revenue line. So my concern is what happens to that? Do we have that anymore, or does that disappear? I mean, that was excess inventory that only became revenue when it was materialized.
Right. The majority of it disappears. Calculation.
So we're gonna expect to see a major decrease then in revenue, or will it be made up through a fee for drying? Because this looks like it's gonna be a loss for drying.
Yeah, the best year we look at the dry was actually what year, 2021. We were generating just under $900,000 in drying revenue.
They never forecast shrinking, even if the state's saying you never forecast us shrinking to the budget, right? I mean, it's, if it happens to come, it comes with it, doesn't, it comes depending on that, depending on the year. Right? If it's a dry year, there's the beans can dry, there's shrinking. And so you can really say that if there was just something in the reverse shift, it's fine.
Yeah, I'd just like to add that there's no inventory for this year that we can sell, so I wouldn't look at it as a total. We're giving a prediction in the future how this is going to affect. I think that's
It's where, yeah, it's where I'm going. I'm more concerned about 24, 25, 26.
So I asked if this is addressing, but for this year, you were asking a question about the effect our. revenue
No, we
this
still
year.
have-
Hold on, we still have some revenues for this year.
Right.
From, that we would be able to get from selling.
From this excess.
Yes,
Okay.
and we already have in stock
Right.
as inventory.
So, through the chair,
That's what we get.
so I see you have a projected drawing, and maybe you're not there yet, I know, I knew we cut you off before we got to this point, but. There's a reason you're capping that number there, I'm assuming, right, that's based on the delta for, like, who's the first amount we can charge per percentage or something like that, there's a reason we're not recouping our losses on the drawing fee.
That's what I'm gonna verify now, is the projected revenue, we just want to make sure our costs are covered. One of the things that the soybean, drink has done over the years, we've insulated all producers for all of the other carbon tax. We're not gonna have, we're gonna have to incorporate the carbon tax into the drawing. I believe that, I don't know what it will be, but I need to verify, look at the calculations, to how much fuel we can actually do.
Right, so like, yeah, so I guess you can grab that segment again, to the chair, but yeah, so it sounds like they're putting a cap on how much you can charge for drawing, which is why we're not, which is. I hate to say it, but if you look at this number and see, I know you have some, like you're saying, some crunching to do. But, it's like we're doing it at a loss to drive for people, for farmers, which is kind of a weird concept, but,
Yeah, we're not really, not really trying for loss, like opposite, we want to be covered, the margin built into that. The table was changed, like, in that block of four numbers, we've got two markets reference only, one on the right hand side. The first line shows the shrink, the old calculation, when the same shrink with the 13% basis, the denominator changes, but that's the fact. It has, just when everything's the same, it's still going to be less because we're moving that, the English is moving the needle on what's dry.
Go ahead.
So. Before, when, so we had a discussion about, where we fit in terms of. Cost for drying in comparison to our competitors. And we were shown that we were like the best deal around, I think. If we're losing revenue to this extent, we're not necessarily say we're losing it, but under this method for the last 3 years, we're actually losing one. The idea of this chart is that we would have lost 1.5 million if that was the case. How can other dryers then, if we're the best deal in town, how does that impact? Like their profit margins must be pretty slim compared to what our profit margins were.
No, I wouldn't say that because the other elevator is along that period. So they've got other costs built in. When I say projected dry revenue, that is basically the competitive with the other guys. But they have sales contracts and they can build in margin on the sale itself. And they get it. Commission if you want, a margin built in, it's like anybody with retail itself, and we've got the margin built into that. That's the way control. We don't play that.
Should we be?
Sure, we make a little more money, we lose a lot of money too. You look at some of the traders, the biggest traders in the world, and money is one of the biggest, they're money now with, right there, money for 2 years ago, the record wow. When you go back and come back, it's tough, but right now, before contract and beat the guys have got sold $750 a ton, and market share is $600. Unless you have a contract with a customer, you've got a problem.
Lost 150. So. I think my miss or where I can't get it through my brain is that I thought the change was to make it a level playing field for all of our players.
In terms of drawing, I mean, everybody rather use the same formula. And you can charge what you like for drawing, there's no restriction on that. But the drain commission is tightening down, this is the basis of the drawing. And this is what you'll charge on any mechanical shrink. Mechanical shrink is widely known, widely accepted. We're going there, they are there to support producers, independent producers, and see
Right.
that producers getting along.
Kevin, what do we have for excess right now, today, that we could sell on?
Just
Roughly,
north of 4,000.
4,000 ton only? That's the shrink piece that we had from what we used from the previous years, so. I'm lost there because you're saying we're gonna have the same revenue this year. That we had last year.
That's the inventory one.
I'm sorry, that's what's inventory's left. The 4,000 you're talking about.
That's what.
Right, what I'm talking about is the shrinkage there that we. What do we have there right now that we could sell to the market, open market?
4,000.
4,000, so we don't have any other, sorry, Make- pardon?
We have got 4,000 above our inventory level,
Right, that's it,
above the inventory level.
and, okay,
We
so,
have inventory there, that's excess.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you won't see the impact of the for a couple of years.
mhm.
Will this table apply to this year?
I expect so, but it's not law yet. I haven't always needed that. That's one of the common law.
So if we go through this season, we would still use the old method. Or would we be switching to the new method?
Yeah, don't know that.
You're saying, that's what I was getting at, if we had a lot of excess left, why not sell it now before July 1? Because you're saying it's supposed to,
Well, we got to have no impact on the community. It exists today. It physically exists.
Right.
This is projection. I don't get it. There's no-
Yeah. before we go any further, just like to inform that Mr. Martell's with us on Zoom from Mexico.
Hey, Joe.
Hola.
Yes, go ahead, Frank, sorry.
Yeah, you mentioned competitive response from other elevators. Beyond suggesting that we delay, the idea how others might respond in terms of competitive pricing to try and keep any losses. Terminal elevators respond differently than those that are conventionally regulated. What's the competitive scenario?
Really can't speak with the metro elevator. They do as they like, they're not like. They have. We're always going to do the market determines what they're going to do, charge and use. I've got a couple of their design tables, and but they're entitled with the other. Very close. Someone shows them how to carbon tax, and they show a Friday, but carbon tax with a total price. The market going on as well. Everyone looks like they're getting on. We have no restrictions on if we can try it or not.
No restrictions beyond the market, right?
Got the market, right? Yeah.
Thanks.
Go ahead, Mrs.
So you mentioned the formula is not in place now, you said, sorry, I missed you, some people are pushing back, or some groups are pushing back on it, saying they're not ready.
The other elevators are saying they're like more time to get the financial systems in place. So
You put the crystal ball on, you see, so do you see it still happening this year, or is it something that will put in 2024?
I think they're gonna push forward.
Yeah.
But I haven't heard anything that response, instead not for response and allow it. If you're there, it's no, it's not.
Kevin, did we respond to the Canadian Grain Commission? About our concerns of going this route? Like, we had until March 1st to send off our concerns. Did we write and you know, saying that we're not happy the way this new system's going, or ask for any further comments on it? The letter I got here from the that I'm reading is states that March 1st, we could have they want to hear our comments or concerns that we put in. Do we
report.
Yeah,
I said, no, we did not. We put in the comments that part of the crucial from all of it, but was a lot. So was everybody on the same page and we really want collective response, you know. And I don't think we received a response to that.
well, I guess what we do is wait and see if it's gonna be passed in 2024 or 2023.
I just ask one more question.
Yes, go ahead.
So ultimately, I mean, that's the comparison for last year, which, for the last 3 years, which, you know, causes me a fair bit of concern because it means a certain, I mean, to me, it means two things. We wouldn't have shrinkage. So we wouldn't be collecting the excess to sell off, which we generate a fair bit of income from, if I'm understanding it correctly. And then not only that, but we would materialized or realized revenue, we would be less again, another 500K. Are you guys concerned about that loss of revenue? I mean, that seems like a big loss in the top line revenue, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, not all the revenues never guaranteed. That only applies, shrink only applies to wet. So last year, had a very dry year, it was really small compared to. So, theoretically, all the things have been dry.
If we have a dry season,
Yeah.
that's not a nature.
But we've always had, and maybe I'm wrong on this again, I'm just looking for clarity, so, but we've always had that excess to sell off. So that it keeps our top line moving along, right? Like we sold off enough to get us to 10 million in overall revenue. If I'm reading this correctly, I mean, we'd end up losing close to 2 million off that line if we don't have excess to claim and if we're not selling off shrink.
Compared to the past week, but we didn't always have that table that we went by either. In the Grain Farmers Association, we didn't always use that method. We go back before that. The year that we put that in, it was 2015, 13. Prior to that, we were set up to do that. So our tables were different back then, and then we got the Grain Farmers of Ontario, which allowed us extra shrinkage, right? So we were able to enjoy it in those years, and now it's going back similar to the way it was before. Sure. So we got to at least enjoy that surplus during that time, but we wasn't going to be revenues from the actual drawing, right? That we, you know, we're going to look at. We have to develop our drawing tables. We have to look at the market and how we explain and see what's fair value for the charging for drawing. And we're still going to get some increase adult there. It's not like there's not going to be any. Hopefully that's going to offset any shrinks in wheat or corn, etc. Like that's what we used to do back when I was starting in the first Canadian Grain Commission would do inventories every 5 years, and we'd be short on wheat, we'd be short on corn, and you would trade some of your soybean for that, and we get to even points. And then that migrated into this Canadian, Grain Farmers of Ontario, and then we'll get a little more from that, and then it's going back. But I think that we're trying to think delta, but we don't have final numbers, and so will it be less? But we gotta remember it's in big years, and that's what we got that inventory in the first place. Some years, this is 3 years worth, but some years you don't get a lot depending on how much it is. But we did have some white here that we were able to accumulate a sizable amount of inventory.
I think, so I guess my last question would be, you know, this year, recognizing that, you know, in the first 5 or 6 months that our expenses have gone up a fair bit, especially for labor. When I'm looking at it, at least from this, it looks like our revenue number is going to be lower. Right, even if it's a good year, this would, at least unless I'm missing it somewhere, this predicts that
Our revenue numbers we're going to be affected anyways, because the auditors decided that it should not be in our budget, should not be an expense item or sort of revenue item. So that needs to be adjusted anyways, but it's kind of an
right.
sort of. So the, you know, the operational costs and so on and revenues, it's not going to be there. Right, it's balance sheet adjustment now. Right, but it still affects. Or, talking about our budget.
It'd be neat to see a projection for what we could expect going forward. I mean, this. And it concerns me. It just looks like we're gonna have a considerably smaller amount of revenue there and with our expenses. Going up considerably, it just seems like that's gonna mean a lot less profit at the end of the year and. Or a lot less excess at the end of the year. I'm concerned. Concerned about that.
Yeah, I mean, through the chair, to the mayor's point, I mean, between labor, benefits, utilities, things like that. The extras, there's $375,000 extra so far year to date that we've just been spending, right? So, on top of that, with less revenue, we have, a different scenario we're looking at, obviously.
Well, hopefully it doesn't go through in 2023. I mean, that's what it is, and we commented, and is there any possible way that they would back off the Canadian Grain Commission?
But there, keep in mind, there's no concern was they got it in a different level. Investigators, not everyone, they're on
From Ontario,
provincial operators, right? It's not like the federal commission. Without forcing to dig into other things. Look at how everybody's doing it, and they found a scenario where there's a big field. Their mandate is to protect the Canadian producer, both domestically and foreign, we should have that's what the Grain Commission. They expected it, law rain, expect the way, they don't expect the way, so there's dispute. The Canadian shipment, the Grain Commission is there. Saying, I'm going to be able to do this. That's what they do. Very likely they're going to change their mind back. They want to standardize this across the board.
Mr. Rachel, you want in?
One more.
Anyone? Yes, go ahead,
Mr. Being a dead horse, is there any way? To show us, and maybe everyone doesn't want this, I certainly would like to see if there's a possibility of. If we could compare it back to last year, we compared what the shrinkage would be. The last year, but like the overall budget. Is there a way to figure that? Out as if this was in place, what our overall end of year financial statement would have looked like compared to what it was?
Sorry, just to add to that through the chair, we should also try and make sure we be by this year as well.
In 2023.
Like, is that too hard to do? I mean, just so that we understand exactly what that impact is. I mean, I know that this doesn't show a positive thought to me, so. But maybe if you show me the entire picture from an overall standpoint of what the impact could have been or what it would have been, maybe it puts me a little more at ease with the effect of this, because I'm not quite sure that I fully understand it. It doesn't look like it's going to be a positive, that's all.
Yeah, I know. Baseball, when you do it, positive, but keep in mind that. We didn't plan the season around, we didn't have to watch it grow, we didn't watch it again. It will still be. Access. Well, we did kind of land and how we managed to do. This is one given to the shrink cap. We have them back, we're going to get out of the cash. If we let everything back.
Right.
But I have to give you a reference number to try and put it in perspective to try and just make you aware of the impact.
Yeah, I think for me, I think I sort of understand that. I'd just like to see it as the overall end of year financial, just to see, what that line ended up and what it would have been if this was the case. For me, anyway. I don't know if everybody else feels that way, but I'd like to see.
Do you have enough, Mr. Daly, to bring back?
It's not going to have an effect for the next 2 years, this year and next year. It will eventually.
Eventually, yes.
Any more discussion on this?
No, I mean, just to talk that point on for me, it may not have an effect for a couple of years, and we should plan for it ahead of time as well, right? So, I said it may not have an impact for this year, next year, we should also make sure we're planning. You know, to transition into those numbers, right? So, I don't know.
Mr. McCollum?
Okay, thank you.
Good. Mr. Martell? Are you good? You're on mute.
He has no problems. Lip reading you so like.
Okay, we're gonna move on to 8. Action information items, 8A, grain operation report. Who's speaking on this? Mrs. Moulton?
Yes, sir. As for May 2023, the overall grain inventory for the month ended at 36,481. Which will continue to see the downward trend as we're getting ready for the season. The traffic for May received a total of 742 metric tons of grain via truck and shipped a total of 6,789 metric tons of grain via truck. Our last inspection from the Canadian Grain Commission resulted in an A, and we did work May 22nd for ingredient and shipment. Year to date entries, we have none. The labor reports for the month of May at 2,632 hours compared to 1994 in the previous year. A total of 13,462 for the year. I'll report again, the inspection was a great day. Yeah.
Any comments, questions on grain operation report? Any?
So, through the chair, so we're up like 25% on overall hours. I'm assuming we're using people properly, everything's we're not having, we're not just doing it because we're trying to keep the staff for the fall, I hope.
Our shipments are almost double what we did last year at this time. We received as much corn in the spring this year as we did all of last fall. So the board has been very busy with that. The intent was to get caught up on lots of projects. As you guys went through the building, we have 425 confined spaces in that area, which requires confined space to eat. So if we get in and do bin repair and do work, it requires a lot of labor. And you'll see in the maintenance report, we're able to use this to avoid grain, stuff with their bottom. So we've done a lot of them.
Good. Mr. McCullough? Mr. Stitt? Mr. Martell?
I just had one and I forgot, it's in my notes and I thought maybe discussion for later, but again, indicated, revenues down again for this month. Considerably later on in the report, but yet we're 700 hours above this year, above what we were last year. That trend continues to concern me. I know overall it says in later on that we're in good shape and that sort of thing, but on a month that it's a considerable negative, our hours are still 700 above. Is there an explanation as to
Yeah,
why?
What I said, we have those confined spaces that we're working on. Confined space entry requires a team, not a strong person. So to get in and do these bin repairs every day, it takes 5 guys. And if we don't get in and get these areas fixed, we'll put rain and then can't control the quality.
I'm going to just add that. When you look at your drain services being minus, it's a fair statement, but. Out of $110,000 that we're down, there's last year, 85,000 of that is storage. And it doesn't take anything to. So. When it drops because of storage, it doesn't really reflect really what's going on as far as labor goes together, that's trying to explain. You know what I mean? When you see a negative number for your drain services, you're relating it directly to labor, but really shouldn't be, it's not necessarily related directly to labor because 85,000 of the loss is storage.
Okay.
Instead of having 80,000 tons of product in our bins right now, it's 75, and we have last year this time, we're down to 35. So that big negative number of revenue is really big.
Storage.
So just the.
But the increase in hours this month isn't related to salt or isn't related to seasonal work, it's related to the bin project. So,
I mean, it takes a lot of work to keep that.
Yeah, yeah.
stuff running. You can see how hard it is. We just ordered to ship the street down that main street and like it's. 10,000 tons on the second bomb there, so you start over again, so it's, you need that labor there to keep the whole thing going. It's a lot of manual work.
Anyone else?
I think that projects we have to be forward, so and
Go ahead.
you know, we're gonna start looking at containers of 12 months a year and start to make it not so seasonal and regular work will also keep the guys there and also have revenue.
Mr. Stick?
So Mike, is there, you see a downturn, the next month, we're gonna see, will we see that kind of excess hours again?
Yes.
Month after month, is this a trend for the year, or are we seeing something, we see this tapering off?
Another month of service heating. Yeah. He releases harvests the kind of these days ago, 4 weeks out, so we're trying to work hard to get ready for that. I think once a week.
When do we expect that? June or July, I mean? Are we in August?
Personal, very much.
Sorry,
Other third reason.
third week in July? Any other questions?
that's the only one I had.
Okay, maintenance, 8B, maintenance report, who's gonna be doing that?
I'll push it on.
Okay,
Once again, maybe work on area repairs, I think we identified it here. 55, we've got 30 of those. Continue to work that. Replace the auger on our dust tank, we kept breaking it. Repairing it, welding it, and finally trying to buy a new one, that was better received and installed. We have problems with the conveyor belt, number 4, in the basement, the belt runs in both directions. It went through with one direction, and then go off. The other direction, we're running a company called GPM, Quality Development. So that's the last week of their belt, we can have a look at it. Made some adjustments, they didn't get new rollers, some much improved performance. Now, we'll give it some time to run, make sure it stays that way. The other broken shaft and bearings and one of the tweaks in the annex, so that's the one of the new power switches, first time we got that they were installed, looking at the metal in the shaft, I think that. That's what the device, carrier down, or the book off, you turn the device down. The winter time, people want to work, repair. A little more work on some dust system, left on the overall dust system, and then we did the maintenance cycle with work. There's speed sensor road in the annex, to the electrical side, and the electrician would do the mill right on the area, the dust order, we connect and disconnect power, and right up, quickly, and we repaired some, lighting fixtures on the bird.
questions, comments? Miss,
With the ice having caused the problem on one of the bins, Have we made changes such that the other bids and that bid again won't be impacted by ice in the future?
Yeah, well, it always be impacted by ice, but hopefully the sports now will stand the impact. They were used hangers, and built some support underneath.
So the ice is inevitable, but now we've got to protect it, we hope in such a way that it can be impacted.
Let's go for wiring and it's available.
And we've done the same protection on all the bids, not just one bid that we impacted.
Yeah, we haven't affected all of them.
Question, comments, Mr. Stick, go ahead.
It's kind of a little off topic, having the treatment, with the speed sensor on the belt. So, on the bucket elevators, you have no sensors on the bucket elevators, no speed or,
There was 49.
oh, do you, on the, okay. And, but no watchdog on the record for alignment or, no, okay.
Mr. Ward? Mr. Mayor? Well, number 8C, capital project report, who's speaking on this?
I will. Paper program, actually, we will repair the roof which we completed, but it's an inboard. But those were done our main problem. Problem being repaid. New garage. When you building there, we're getting hopes on that. Fifth and Marina, we're getting out ready to leave fall. Where again, he started to start on using the third week in August for the land development over there. Meeting from the discussion phase. Dredging, last time before the meeting, so that was there. The repairs and modifications of frac shed, looking at the engineering cost right now, we're probably not actually coming forward, next meeting. Then more repairs, carry over, which is getting started in July, scheduled to start in July. The system, we work on that, some of the trash cans installed, and we were installing additional ones. With that. Transfer sheet at the west end, that was complete, we're waiting on the invoice, but sheet is in place. Good, going well. There, we had an RFP proposal last Thursday, we're trying to review the proposals. The action is what's coming next month. Here, covering for the elevator, is action item this evening, discuss that. Automate the bin bottoms, that was the progress, actually, the electrical contractor showed up today to start. Back electrical panels, so I know. Electrical feeder cable, action item this evening, well. Replace the Bobcat, we have an RFP edit, closed on June 29th. We have the other ones, but we're doing some design work this year, prepare for next year. Street wire and wet bins. Everyone's aware the app funding came through. We have the volume, we're preparing an RFP for that, to get that into tender. We had $4 million in the budget. That was up to force money. One of the things that we are looking at now, we've got the wire, we're looking at increasing the volume of grain coming through the annex. And it's currently full, we're looking at possibly installing another bin to hold the output from the dryer. That will be looked at, and the action I come forward on that as well. Which is maybe that's one of the things we're looking at, and maybe congestion. Currently, we have two potential bottlenecks. One is storage space and another dryer. So we expect to have at least 10,000 metric tons of additional work again. Hopefully going towards 20,000, kind of using a conservative estimate at 10,000 tons for now. Then we also have the receive dry mark as well. We can deliver conflict on like a conveyor system, like conveyor system built at 350. You take coin in about 300 and then dryer depending on what the rate was on 100 tons an hour. So good look at the potential overwhelm of that conveyor. So we're talking about that as well. Done preliminary business case for it, look at the payback of 6.7 years. Yeah. It's on the- That's success of that project. You know, we're still studying that, what is some of the licensing and permissions we have to get from the range to do that. The connecting last government to the 1,000 completed as well. There was some significant savings on that. The reason being that the person that did the conveyor, the shoot conveyor on the 7 was the same time we did that. We had a lot of the approvals on site. They had held it all that on one end versus the other. So that's what the same reason. Working still working on the aerators, again, with the 30 now, 55 are identified. Not working with that additional parts on order, there are others. Buckets are in line with that progress finished this week. We might say longer belt and the buckets. We want a new chain, maybe here in the next month. The orders installed. 25 CIAs is part of one we will see them. And the light line was actually just installed on just to get back up again with that power issue. Come there, trying to help and guys off on. They agreed to buy that in and then talk about that progress complete. We're just waiting on the invoice to buy it. That is summary from the capital.
Questions, comments? Mr. Mayor?
Yeah, I have a couple. So. There's, you know, a good, and I like this, there's a very good, you know, reflection of what's being with for, you know, into next year. For projects that aren't going to go forward. Or at least they're gonna go forward, but they're not going forward to the extent that, you know, to finish the project this year. And I like to see what that impact is already on next year's budget with whipping forward. You know, almost $5 million worth of capital for next year. So I like that it actually gives us a good picture of where we'll be for next year's budget, and we're not halfway through this year. I think that's a positive move. I like to see that reflected. So the couple questions that I have though is the left column, the budgeted amount, that was the approved budget for the budget that we as a committee approved. And I think like for number 15 tonight, we're seeing, is it 15? Yeah, number 15 tonight, we're seeing, oh, it's not number 15, sorry.
9.
Is it? It's 15. There's one though that has an adjustment to it. It's 14, I think. Is that right? Is that tonight that it's in there for the adjustment? There's one in there for an adjustment tonight.
For electrical, I believe.
Yeah, and it's going from 180 to 250. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
That's right.
Right. So it's interesting that it's called an adjusted budget. To me, like instead of just reflecting what the, you know, what the actual cost of that project's going to be. I mean, the approved amount is for the budget that we passed is 180.
Right.
It's going to come in at 247 plus 15%. I'm trying to understand what the adjusted budget number actually means, because it.
Okay, well, I'll speak to that because that's, I developed that part of the spreadsheet.
Okay.
Because we're trying to get to a cash flow, we're trying to predict, have there been any changes to the budget so far? So for one thing, when it's an action item, we're over budget, we're asking.
Yep.
That's going to affect your budget. And your cash flow moving forward with the other projects. So that, the adjustment is, as of right now, before, some of these still don't have their tenders in and have their actuals in. But it's an estimate, it's an up-to-date estimate of what we think the adjustment will be for 2023, so we can develop the cash flow in order to look at our investments later on this evening. So we don't adjust that and we use the 10A, we're not really using the proper numbers to figure out.
Yeah, I think I struggled with the word adjusted budget, that's all, instead of where we're at, because like the budgeted approved number is the first column,
Right.
right? And nothing in the second until we approve budget change to it. Isn't
Nothing in the second column, sorry.
yeah, the second column is
Adjusted budget for 2023 is the second column, right? Are we?
Yeah, so my question, I guess, going ahead, like, so in item 21, what causes 50,000 to be reduced down to 40,000 when it was originally approved at 50? I mean, that's a good thing, but. Is that based on what the RFP is that we've received, or?
That's kind of, when we look at the parks, look how much time we have left in the year, if we were only gonna spend 45 on that. So if we're gonna look at the harvest, we really need to get. Those areas will be a lot. We're trying to project the action.
Whereas you're over budget on a couple of projects, quite sizable.
Yeah, no, I saw
So trying to reduce some other areas that sort of back or sort of.
Yeah.
That's the intent anyways. So we're trying to predict, and that's not final, the only real final is the action column. Right?
Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
And so as they come in and they get completed, we're going to be, obviously, we'll have a better comparison against budget. But for tonight's meeting, because it's including investment, we wanted to demonstrate, okay, we're going to give enough, and I thought that's what we'd asked for. What do you think you're going to spend in 23, and what do you think you're going to spend in 24 once to get moved over? So we added those two columns to sort of demonstrate that.
So far then, 206 is what we've actually spent out of a budget of 10.8.
As of the end of May. Okay, correct.
Cool. Good.
I think what,
I think I'm done.
where it says adjusted budget, if it said something like year-end estimate,
Yeah,
that might address change.
a lot of companies use something like the latest best estimate, and that has to be something like that, because it's not in a budgeting, because the budget is what we locked in.
Right.
So this becomes a.
I understand.
I'll make that consent, that's a good point.
It's easy.
Yes, that's great.
No, I'm just agreeing, saying.
Mr. Frank?
So I mean, I like the layout here as well. I mean, I did my own little color coding offline, and you know, it looks like there's 20 that are probably expected for this year. 2 more of them that add on to, depending what we decide tonight, it sounds like could be this year as well. So, you know, we're looking at possibly up to 85% of these projects getting closed from a numbers perspective, which is cool. And you know, I know it's only 57% of the spend, but that assumes we spend nothing on the ones that we're putting in the 2024. So, but I think there'll be some spend obviously this year, won't be nothing. But the thing that I do wonder about, I guess, is maybe the better term than worry is, you know, some of these ones are pushing up to 2024. And I know that we unfortunately get stuck a little bit on budgeting report like we budget a township, but I'd love to see if we could push these things into Q1. I know we've had this conversation in the past, and I'd love to make sure we understand the mechanism that allows us to perceive some of these things in you know, what should be our low drive, if you will, in Q1 next year. So I just want to put that out there as a statement that for us to keep our eye on that ball when we get that far. So
Okay, one question. Good point. Go ahead.
And so the success, we had success, congratulations. I don't know if I've said that or not openly in public or not, but success with the dryer application, which is fantastic, or the dryer grant application, which is fantastic. There's 2 million removed from the budget for this year, but there's 2 million left in. What exactly is that 2 million that's left in for?
With the, we got the original application, the paperwork, project had been done, actually, with my previous. Spoke with one of the contractors I used in the past, he said, look, I can't get parts for, you know, I don't know anything until I told him the number. So he's gonna be looking towards money, which plan, if he's stuff, there's a new thing of anyone. Then what we'll do is probably looking for foundations involved. Get that done before the process is, and then he'll come back and win in the summer. Since that time, we've learned that we've got, we can't have a little more time on March 31st. When we originally got through the agreement, and that was March 31st, and then so we put that money up. Getting some parts, paying for those parts as they land, and putting everything together to balance the work to get you one.
Okay, like ask a couple more then.
Go ahead.
So is the thought then that we'll run 2 dryers, or we'll replace the existing dryer that we have?
We'll run a few drivers.
Have we secured adequate gas supply to run to?
Yeah,
Not yet.
I think it's there, based on the conversations and reading in the line. So, and there's technical people, we have a conversation we have. We want to get into, of course, the turn driver we need, when we get the soybean, how to get the beans dry so that they get going on, depending on the year. We have a wet year and a one steady on soybean, so we can't load. And the other one is the soybean, the farm business unit. But now last year, we really didn't get into the farm business until the summer. We have to start getting, bring up our space and going to move towards corn and another goal to try on the bus. So that space that those ladies again, coming into the farm business, we had guys favorite for the farm on, we said those space we had the next. Still, a lot of room, no room at all to get wet corn when it started. That space is tied up, so when the run to.
So I think, yeah, fantastic, and I think that leads you into the extra storage for the bin, right? But, I guess I'm just wondering if we don't have gas, if we're gonna hook up a second dryer. That's, I guess, that's my question, is more related.
Yeah, we're not really one discussion, whatever. We made the application for final, but it's not open. That was the only guarantee fuel that we had. So there's not a gas there. I'm gonna do some more calculations and try and have a conversation again. And we have a big, we don't lose the run on that, that's where the biggest. We're not going to run two dryers, January, February, that dryer can probably get shut down. Probably really down. Because the potential people. So we won't take any wet rain. Any wet rain, any wet water, then after that, we should have space in the main building. You can dry it up to December, January, and run one dryer now, it's no problem. There's no things that they believe. They fix everything on maximum burner capacity, but the average capacity is much lower. Less than half. If you need to generate enough, you can dry the rain.
Okay.
Especially corn, you want to make sure that it's pretty long. Roll the boiling point, and then again, it's one of the dry.
Okay. So, but I heard you say propane. Are we hooking up a propane? The new one would be a propane dryer?
I prefer to be natural gas. Like I said, when we take the application about having one, I feel like we can guarantee. Still working at that. The RPM, I got it in 2005.
Yes.
So, on that new green dryer, I feel like I remember we had a conversation where it will be more efficient, the new dryer than the current one. Is that something we talked about?
No, you know, so like, yeah, I was slowly. But they keep the coverage, basically, we didn't have a shield goes around the dryer on that heat section. So the heat doesn't escape as quickly. And in Ontario, lab study that said, you know, you should be able to 20 to 40% of fluid to the.
And that's the only other thing that I don't know if it exists or not, something like, we can't have a little storage tank to be able to charge up if you will, then run to for a while or part of it or something.
Well, I like it, it's a time where the gas plants they will not utilize it, and you can store it. And they do allow storage of natural gas, because there's compressed natural gas. There's a compressed state like the Fort Hills, with our. Talk to those people, it's about, I can't get you in the trailer now, I can't get that in the bottom. So they allow that to store gas, they compress it, put it in their own tanks, and then deliver it to customers. Okay, so it is.
That's
Yeah, even if it's just renting, I hate to say it, you heard just renting a gas trailer or something like that.
You know, the compressed natural gas, they do, they compress the gas, then you have a second trailer on the site, and get in the trailer. That's the gas, then so you can use it in 2 of them.
Yeah, it's okay, good. I'm thinking the same thing.
Yeah.
And I think we can hopefully do some lobbying on your behalf, you know. We have I think we have a meeting with the Minister Smith in August, is that right? I think, is it confirmed? We asked for a delegation, but it's not, is that right?
For still, the earliest we can before the meeting.
Okay. And we've already moved on to Mr. Clark, so we will give as much support as we can on our end for sure. Up and running, yeah. Any other questions, comments, people?
Thanks for that, thanks for the update, I think it's a lot more clear. It's good.
Financial report. That is a D, who's gonna do it, Robert? Or Rhonda? Rhonda?
Our revenue for the month for 268,000, it's lower than May by 156,000, mainly due to one green store 5. Grain receiving and shipping was down 22,000, and our services well down 33,000, which does happen because of the timing of the vessels when they're coming, delivering the salt, depending on the month they come in compared to last year. Expenses were 443,000 a month, which is an increase of 75 for last year, which the main cost of that is the municipal allocations up 17.5, labor is up 22, fuel, electricity is 16, and it's up 5. Our year-to-date revenue numbers remain strong, and we're still well above 2022 totals. Our harbor services are up 216. Grain services are down 14, and rail services are up 113. Although our year-to-date expenses have increased, our year-to-date surplus is still trending below budget. Our management fees transfers in May are 216. Our receivables are in good shape, but outstanding under 30 days. Just
I just have a question.
Go ahead, Mr. McCauley.
It's an inflationary environment, we're seeing that in our expenses. Do we have any flexibility or latitude to increase our prices, or looking at increasing prices that may help to offset some of that inflationary impact of expenses?
Yes, yeah, we can, I think it's by August 1st, we can certainly increase our, normally I think last year was 2%. So we would normally put a 2% increase into all our grain services. Level, I'll offset. I'm not sure yet, I know they're still trying to get carbon tax off for dryers and so on, but that could be helpful as well. Oh yeah, there is, the answer is yes. I mean, there's one thing, I know it stands out, you know, the label. A couple things are going on in my mind, they should be reported quarterly, because, you know, there's such a difference one to another. And it would be more smoother when you get quarterly, that's another. But if you look at the year-to-date grain services, last year we're at $1,526,000 in revenue. This year we're at $1,511,000 in revenue. Okay, so for the year we're $15,000 less in our revenue for grain services year to date as at the end of May. In storage alone, we're $400,000 under what we were last year. And we made that almost entire at $400,000 revenue. We made up from the other grain services that Mike's alluded to and so on, with vessels, with trucks, and so on and so forth. So if we look at that extra $400,000 that we made up in revenue, okay, not from the storage, where it doesn't take any labor on the storage, right? When you look at the hours, we multiply it, let's say by $30, it's $120,000. So yes, we spent $20,000 extra. Yes, there's benefits in that in there as well. So let's say $140,000. But we made up $400,000 credit to offset that rate. So To put it in, I just want to put the labor in perspective, because it does stand out, it does look like we are using a lot more hours than necessary. And we're making up that revenue that we're losing from the storage. So it's interesting to look at your storage and how you make money off storage and how you make money on the storage not there from. We're gonna be bringing in a net, it costs you more to do it, but we've also paid for storage bins, which cost millions of dollars in order to have that storage, so we're offset there as well, right? So just want to.
I think in fairness as well, and I mean, you know, we hit the negatives because nobody likes the negatives, but the reality of it is, we wanted there to be more storage. Coming into the season, we asked you to do exactly what you've done, like, I'm not gonna sit up here and say, what the heck, we lost all the storage revenue when we asked you to have room for supply in the fall. We asked you to do exactly what's there, so don't take my questions the wrong way. I'm certainly in support of it. I just recognize, correlate those two numbers.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think they're all real fair statements. It's been kind of communication on a sort of one understanding where the revenues are going, how the expenses go, and what offsets what, and so on. It's an interesting business in that, you know, you have the storage there, and maybe we don't have all this foreign coming in and going out, even in the first quarter. Well, you have all your last year, it's all storage revenue, right? It's interesting. So we made a difference. We get the best out of both worlds, right? And it also puts us in really good position going into this house. Yeah. Having this much storage as well.
Sure. Yes, so I mean, it's worthwhile also noting that, you know, you got a bit more diversity in the revenue as well, right? We have more rail services, and I can't remember which one of you guys said it, but you know, there's different labor requirements for each of those aspects, and I don't think we have, and I don't think it's worth doing if we don't have it already, capturing sort of how much labor goes into each of those buckets. But I think we're going to find that it would be, you know, the harbor services that we talked about, where there is more labor usually in that area than there is in something rates. So I think that's part of the challenge as well. Plus, you know, also using some of that labor for projects makes sense as well. We have to deal with a competition ahead. You know, we're doing a lot of stuff this year, so you know, it's high. We know it's high, and you know, we've talked about a number of times, but you know, you know, I think it is what it is, and overall, to your point, we're looking better on the year than we were last year. So handing out some.
This is.
Frank's question, offsetting inflation, so is that the plan to, is that a course of actions to raise?
Yes,
2% or something?
well, we were thinking 2%, but that's something we could bring to the committee if they want us to look at it in this meeting.
And is there any, does it sound like there's any?
I just normally usually go ahead with that, but if it's inflation is too high, we can do it 1%, 1.5%. And this year, increased cost for
because it sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, so actually on that note, good triggering of my mind there, but so did you factor an increase in when we did the budget as well, or is that something you were just gonna get as a potential offset?
No, that's not factored into the budget.
Yeah, the only thing I have to say is just what the mayor said. We asked you to do it, you guys did it. The harbor, I'm glad to see it's up. This rail service, and really, it's 130K grand. Over goals. That's what we wanted. But the harbor service, we have very little. Like Mr. Ward said, that it affects our labor, but we have very little labor involved. Because it's all logistics to our stevedore.
Fair point, and valid. The only labor really there is for, I think, mooring services that our guys will quantify the vessel.
Yeah, but that's it.
Other than that, I think our receiving vessels and delivery vessels will kind of bring. Right.
That's what our labor is main service and maintenance, also maintenance and repairs. Inside, okay. Good. Any other questions, comments, people? Before we move on? Mr. Martell, I don't know.
No sound.
Let's move on to 8E, vessel traffic report. Who's taking care of that?
Oh, there that, thank you very much. So we were looking at a total of 242,000 tons compared to last year, 33, and the majority of that is our salt, domestic salt coming in, and also rain as well. So big difference compared to last year, so that's why you see obviously our tractor service being as high as it is. And then our tippers are pretty much the same as last year. And yeah, we have 4 ships arriving in the month of May, and we're salters, and we currently have 3 vessels scheduled to deliver salt in June. And we just had a vessel a little bit of the week before. Like let you on literally. That's the traffic report.
Any questions, comments, people?
Just on that one vessel, small vessel split load. It just seems odd, that it's only 10,000 tons and yet it ends up being split load. Is it doing different land? Is that?
They are a turnkey poultry operation. They roll, they swallow, they get the road for the job. That's the day they part of it. And it's kind of something so okay. And for it, it goes out to the
Yep. Mr. Mayor.
Nope.
Very good. Health and safety report.
Yeah. I think we got Fearless in 4.5 days, month of May. There's some changes to the confined space entry regulations, so as I alluded to, we have a lot of spaces very unique. So we had to make sure that our SOPs, our instructions were up to date, separated from the regulations. So it's not how it runs, going to the requirements of salt management and the participated in the health safety planning and water. That's it.
Any questions, comments? Skip, colleagues, the Ward. Move on then. To the GM report, 8G.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Just some, yeah, I've looked at this in the past month or so. Capital projects with dredging project, it's prepared for tonight. The board and the paving project and the pre-construction meeting Tomlinson, and so the actual paving scheduled for the 3rd to the 6th, I met them today. And they're going to be in tomorrow morning, starting to do the master feed, or master feed. So this is construction happening there. Correspondence with the lawyer, we'll discuss that a little later on. Starting on collective bargaining. Close to the North River Photography Club. I thank Sean and Mike for helping me out with the tour. We had great photos with that. It's pretty interesting what they can do with these cameras. And I shared some of those pictures with you earlier. We met with the RBC representative. We had our opportunity to Rhonda and we had Ron in attendance, and basically it was a general conversation on the current interest rates and their customer service that they're providing right now. We had a team's meeting with Frank Ecology there and Council Treasurer Sean to discuss our investment. And we talked about creating additional accounts. That's something we want to bring up a little later for the new year. For the port, but definitely we'll be talking about investments tonight. We have an action item. And remember a couple of the committee members, just invite them over, talk about the background, and help the port in the future. Met with Logistech to discuss the rules around the accounting of data. I think we mentioned that in the past, there's new rules coming up. Had a team meeting with the CEO and treasurer regarding group benefits. And then I have a little blurb on our agricultural technology funding update, just wanted that starting back to money. A good idea, it's bringing the others up to speed on how that all started, the actual virtual tour. Or when they made their announcement at the board. I know Frank was here then, along with the mayor, deputy mayor. And that went on to presenting an application, which is the sort of Cole's notes version of your application, and then if you're approved on that, then you go to the full blown application, which has a lot more detail and so on, and thank Kevin for helping with that, with Saunders key on that. And basically, so at this point, we're at a meeting today with the government official, we're going back and forth with some details, and we're trying to come up with we can make a joint announcement about it and blow it up a little bit more than what we've had. They appreciate us and give us where we're at it. I'm not making any big newspaper announcements or anything, but we're just to let you know that we're trying to put something together and coordinate some kind of then perhaps come to the board. And so
Had a very positive interaction with Minister Biddle's staff recently when he requested a letter of nomination or a scroll for Mark Comfort, and so formed a small in that office, and very receptive and very supportive. So nothing but positive things to say about that office. They were actually right, and they don't usually jump aboard that train, but they were happy to jump aboard. So it was a good interaction with them, and having been present for that, that very short notice, you did a fantastic job that day on that announcement. I know it was very short, and I just want to compliment, because you did do an excellent job and very short announcement.
I think it was 4 days.
Yeah, it was good. It was quick.
Thank you.
Any other?
thoughts? The chair, so I, so we talked a bit about updating the view for the capital budget, capital projects reporting. Is that where we're going to start to see us incorporating sort of how we fund those as well, or is that just going to be more? I keep droning on about sort of how do we plan the long range and how we fund the long range, if you will. So is that going to be incorporated in there, or is that just a different tool we're going to use? It's going to be on
Good question. Where I'm seeing things now is, I think what we really need to do is, it's not just capital and what's, like, if you want to look at what's ahead 5-10 years, which it sounds like where you were sort of going towards, then we really need to look at the port on a whole and review I'm losing the word now. Yeah, well, just a plan on the future of the port and where we want to see it in 5 years. And what are our strengths and weaknesses? We've done some work on that in the past, but I think we need to get that going again and have everybody's involvement in developing in order to, for me just to sit and say this is what we think we're going to spend in the next 10 years. I think we all have to be on the same page with that. And so I think we need a little bit more work on that. So I want to bring that forward at a future meeting. What I'm doing now is just giving my sort of version of where I see some critical areas that need to be done down the road. And I'll look at this year, next year, and then I'll say, okay, 6 to 10 years, we're going to be this. And I understand that that's somewhat vague, but I'm trying to give you an idea of potential costs down the road. For example, when we look at our dock and looking at it recently, it's not getting any better at Fort Dock, so that's something that we're going to move ahead now and really do an engineering analysis of it either later this year or the next year. We do have money for some engineering, and we need to come up with a plan for that dock because it's not in very good shape. And so things like that, we need to sit down. Usually what you'll do is you'll get some of the community involved in these workshops and so on. You'll have something here. You get involvement from everyone, you get involvement from the committee, but that needs to be brought forward at a future meeting. But that's kind of my plan. And from that, develop the monies that you think you'll be projecting to spend in the next 5 or 10 years.
Thank you. That's good.
Robert, just before we go on, I'd like to congratulate, you and Kevin, especially, I shouldn't say especially Kevin, Kevin did a lot of labor, you know, as you said.
You can say whatever you like.
Oh, I don't know, but I mean, between the two, I'm so happy you got it, and appreciate it, I like it, I'd say whatever, I like now. But, no, I like to congratulate the whole team for what they were achieving that, all that. Just, one, the, rules for the dunnage, is there something coming out new, that we get rid of?
Yes,
Do we have to get rid of it, or what?
we don't have, where Steve or looks after that, so they would represent the port, they're a terminal operator.
Yeah.
So when they get the international money, there's a certain way they have to get it. They're tightening things up a little bit, because and so on coming in.
How do we do it now?
They basically put it in a bin and then they bring it to a certain location, but now they need to have a control plan they gotta develop. They've got a permitting for it and so on, so they're looking at that right now and getting that in place. So I had a meeting with them on that. I thought it was sport that had to do it, but it's actually the terminal operator that's going to do it. We have to make sure they're doing it, but they're doing it on our team. Very similar to security for the port, when we get to when the seaboard bringing in the vessels on the steel, the Canada Border Services, they arrange that and go on the portal and they give the notice of advanced notice information and so on. They do that on the copy port.
Right, okay, good. Any other questions, comments, people? Okay, we're gonna move on to the Port of Johnstown investment. 8H, yes.
I think you need to. Move on a second or to receive those reports from you.
Okay, you're absolutely right, from 8A to 8G. Action items moved by Mayor Bishop and seconded by Councilor Ward. It's an easy one. All in favor? There you go. Thank you. H is for Johnstown investment. Who's going to speak upon this one, please?
That's mine, thank you. So we're looking at the GIC coming due and with that. Coming up quickly, June 30th, this was the meeting when you marked for discussing, discussion on investments. Just a little bit of a background, it's the port management committee to approve, recommend the best investment for the port. My responsibility is to make a recommendation, and using working parameters, such as the type of investment, length of investment, the money available to invest. That would mean you're looking at cash flow. That I presented what we saw earlier, and that's why we developed the spreadsheet the way we did, so use it for cash flow analysis. Also to get in contact with the township's treasurer to make sure that we're on the same page as far as what's available, different banks as far as PICs and different things like that. We also get our Frank McCauley involved as well with his background in RBC and so on, and get up that all together, and we come up with a recommendation for the group tonight. Just some of the objectives that we look at is obviously preserve and protect the principle of the investment from capital loss and ensure sufficient liquidity at all times for ongoing operations and improve capital expenditures, and of course we need to generate support. So we talked about the policy that has to be group by this committee, and then we on the next page we just gave a breakdown of the monies available that we require, this actual analysis. I don't want to go into in detail here, but if you have any questions on that, I can answer. And we also have our different examples of GIC right now, the non-redeemable that we were looking at June 9th, and the rates are very favorable. They're agreeing higher than what's showing here. I think we're pretty close to 6%, I believe. So
talked about this together and we want to, of course, get your input tonight on this. So we're not, don't want to make a decision on our own, but we certainly want to have recommendations in place, at least start the conversation and so on. So we're looking at the Scotiabank GIC maturing June 30th. It is currently at 4.2%. And saying that the money that will be available to invest on June 30th will be $3,499,000, etc. And maximum amount available to invest all of it. We can invest in 0 to 3 years. And in our discussion, we were talking about, and Frank and Sean, anytime you want to enter the conversation, please do. But we're talking about having a ladder effect, so everything doesn't come due at the same time. That plus the fact that we're thinking that rates are still creeping up. So we still want to take advantage of that, so we don't want to lock in too long. So what we'll probably do 3.499 is to split it up into 1.499 over 180 days, GIC, non-redeemable at the best rate, and 2 million in not a non-redeemable, a non-redeemable GIC for a year. That's for the GIC, and for the investment under Scotiabank, which is the HISA account, high interest savings account. Currently, this could be different today, but if we look at it as 5.275, which is still really good rates. And so we're looking at, yes, it is available to invest 0 to 3, but we're recommending that we leave it where it is at this point and take advantage of the rates continuing to go up. And at that point, look at locking it in.
Questions, comments, please. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think this is great. The numbers that are there, it looks like a good amount to be invested. I have no issue with leaving the HISA the way it is. And I think maybe you answered part of my question already, but 180 days, log in the 1.499 of 5.74. And then for the year, we're going to take a little bit less at 5.72. Just to not have it come due at the same time.
Yeah, effectively, it's because what you've got going on now is it's called a very yield curve. You'll notice that longer term rates, when you look at those Gen 6, longer term rates are actually lower than some of the shorter term. It's actually peaked at about 2.7. So the difference of 2 basis points is not all that significant given the amounts. I mean, ideally, you don't want everything coming at the same time. So that's the latter idea. They do some at 180, some at 365, and ideally the 180. They are talking about potentially 2 more rate increases. When that 180 comes due, it'll come due at an even higher rate. When the 360 comes due, who knows? Rates at that point in time may have started to come down, but we will have had the benefit not only of higher rate on the 180, but also the compounding of the interest of the 180.
I think another perspective on that to the chair was with the nature of the capital projects that are coming due in the early part of 2024, it offers a little more liquidity as well for the board to have access to
Yeah, actually, I appreciate that, Sean, for that context, because when I look at June 30th, 2024, $269,000 in the bank, I was extremely scared. And it looked like we were almost chasing the wrong target. It's just like investment after investment instead of run the business. I know it wasn't the goal, but it just said that was a bad number for you to look at. And so I was concerned that we're going to need that money in the first half of the year. So, you know, in the different conversation, I guess we get to Jen and we'll figure out what we want to do with it at that point in time. But nope, that's good context. I appreciate that.
It's, we'll go ahead. Comments just about those 3 objectives, because I threw those into our last piece. And somebody might look at that and say, well, shouldn't your real objective be to generate income from the poor? And there have been discussions around the management community meeting, I know in the past, about maximizing our income. The only way you maximize income is to also take more risk. And in our instance, our business isn't to make money off investments. Our business is to make money in the grain business. So what you want to do is always make sure that you have the money available when you need it, and then you make whatever money you can. But I'm of the perspective that protecting the principle is just sort of job one for us. none of you and none of us would want to go back to the taxpayers and ratepayers and say, well, we had $5 million, we need 5 million now, but it's only worth 4. So that's what led to that itemization of 1, 2, 3, actually.
Thank you. Thank you for that.
So. It is, and it isn't part of this, but you know, we heard earlier. That we have the 4,000 metric tons in excess. There, which equates to another 2.4 roughly at today's market value. Is there value in materializing that or realizing that now and having it in a locked-in investment where it makes money? I know the concern is that it protects us from losses.
Yes, and generally speaking, it's usually during the soybean season when they actually want to buy it. You know, when you can sell it because there's a market for it. Right? I don't know that there'd be a market right now for selling soy.
So you couldn't sell it at 6
I'm not
months
saying
right now.
that, but I'm just saying that when usually is they, you know, we have to put maybe something out, basically. Regarding storage and that, why would they buy it, get storage and so on, right? Because, so, I mean, I'm not saying we're not aggressively shopping to sell it at this point. Unless we're directed to, we're waiting until the soybean harvest, and usually what happens is we're able to help certain producers because they're short a little bit, and we, you know, 500 tons short on a vessel, we're gonna be make that at that point, so okay, well, we've got something we can consolidate at that point.
Kevin, you want to?
No, usually the most often time, we do the price market come up a little bit with their model this September, and they're trying to get time on questions. 600 today, you might be able to realize 675 by way of the purchase. But again, the market body fluctuates. There's no guarantee, but that has been a trend over the last 10 years.
I think, well, kind of, it's just my thought is that there's, you know, and I guess I don't understand it quite, you know, to the extent that you utilize that excess inventory. I don't think that I have a full grasp on what you would use it for. From my perspective, it's $2.4 million sitting there as funds that aren't drawing any interest and we're not creating any revenue from it. But I think from your perspective, it's a protective layer in case it's needed, or at least that's how I feel about it. And I just wonder if its best use is there as that, you know, that extra 400 just or 4,000 just being there.
Yeah, we're both the set of right now. It'd be less than 30 and a half.
They're all valid points. I think part of the subjects we had in our phone call was also having accounts and having research accounts and setting those up in the board and saying what is the right number. Eventually, you know, I've always used reserve contingency. I believe $2.5 million should be in there. Operating account, $1 million should stay in there, and the rest towards, you know, your dedicated projects. Is that the right number? I mean, you know, I mean, it definitely covers the payments of the township of $1 million and so on. So it pays our employees for the year. Yeah, that's totally, you know, terrible year. So, you know, that's kind of where I was looking at that. But they're all very valid. But those are the sort of things we need to sit down and discuss and see what we think are the right numbers and go from there. And I think part of the discussion with the treasurer going forward is going to be just that, but you know, setting up some other accounts so that we can see it a little clearer. And it's kind of the same lingo that you're used to hearing from the township when you're at those meetings. But I applaud John for bringing those things up, and I know we got to be very proud of that as well. So we are looking at that. We're just not quite there yet. To answer the question, yeah, you know, it's a valid comment, Mr. Mayor. We could, if you wanted something like that, direct stop, and then we can start looking and.
I think I can think of it and like, if I'm not wrong, Frank would know these numbers better than I would, but at 5% at 2 million, I mean, I think that's $208,000 or $210,000 in revenue off of that. So to me, that Like maybe I'm wrong on that, but that, I think in my head, that's the number that I came up with, so. It just seems like, is that like, I don't know, is it the best use of that, you know, it's.
The rate goes from 600 to 750, like if you bought them, you get $50 a ton, you can wait until the harvest. I mean, it's right. You're right. Everybody's right. It's just what is the right time? It's commodities and the price to take on it.
I can see the operations, I mean, it's like coming up, the insurance there, in case you have an issue with the body. The kind of presentation of it, we're going to lose our invisible. So it's, you know, maybe right now, but it's certainly nice to have that insurance there. That doesn't affect your budget in case something goes upside down.
And I think that was one of the things that Robert and I were going to get, for 2024 is just not reporting in line. So from council's perspective, it's apples to apples as to how you're used to the same things, and then it still doesn't affect Robert from doing the day from the business at the board. So we're trying to find that way that everything can go the way that the board needs to run, and that we can report it so that it's digestible.
Yeah, and through the chair, I mean, it's probably worthwhile that you know, 2019 up 6.7%, 2020 37% increase, 2021 was 2%, and last year was 13% increase on the price of soybeans. So, you know, that sounds like a better investment. And I know there's risk obviously in that kind of commodity, but that is a better investment moves than the 6% we're looking at for materializing, you know, dollarizing that aspect there. But I do think it's one of these things we have to see what happens with the decision and that's what to do with you know, how they're going to change, or if they're going to change it this year or next year.
Okay, I do have a recommendation. Port of Johnstown Management Committee, is everyone done? Yeah, no, I'm good. Management Committee approved the following investment recommendation. Number one, that the Port General Manager, and the Township Treasurer fund the best possible rate for 1 year and 6 months non-redeemable GIC. The Port of Johnstown Manager takes the $3,499,737.41 from Scotiabank GIC maturing on June 30th, 2023, and invest $1,737.41 into a 180-day non-redeemable GIC at the best available rate, and the remaining $2 million in a 1 year non-redeemable GIC at the best available rate. Moved by Mr. Ward, seconded by Mayor Shantz. Any comments or questions before we call? All in favor? Pass. Thank you. Application, now we're on to 8I, application of the Leicester Management wall covering to Ben Waltz. Who's gonna speak on that one? You're on.
So, the section I think is for the application is last American law. To the dams. Background on this, when the port was constructed, it was built in concrete lifts, so every, I don't know, I'm gonna say every 15 feet, it would go around, and then we would do it again. You can actually see the pole joint in the picture, on the left-hand side. So the problem with concrete is like anything, it expands and contracts with weather, and it expands and contracts when product is put into it. So what happens is it gets cracks, the rain gets in, the rain freezes, and then it falls on the other side. I think that the guys have done a tremendous job over the years trying to maintain it and fixing it. But unfortunately, because concrete is concrete, it will continue to crack. The purpose of this product is it stretches. So when it's applied, it will cover the crack. And I think it's started about this time, 100 times its thickness, so you know, the expansion factor, it will stay intact. So the purpose of the project is actually threefold. It is number one, to repair the maintenance that is leaking, to protect the repairs that have been done and protect the work being done now. See how long the product, how it seals, and to gather more information on how the effectiveness. So the scope of the work includes preparation of the concrete surface with a high pressure wash and application of 2 coats of elastomeric paint. Replace from 3 to 6 to 9 to 12 bins. I've done a small diagram now, showing the 12 bins that we would like to do. And just to let you know, on the north side of the building, about 70% of the bins are actually leaking. So the policy implication is that they're not higher than the budget, it was approved by the town council, financial consideration, the budget of the project is 100,000. Below are the companies that bid on the project, so it's safety contracting, engine building systems, and Samoda. We had Steve Housden, he looked at all of the companies, the specifications, and it was our recommendation, as well as Steve's, is that we work the purchasing contracting, bid on 101,980, excluding HSD with a 10%. Any questions?
Any comments, questions, please?
Is it the interior that we're quoting? The exterior?
Sorry?
The exterior.
Exterior, yeah.
So in the budget, that was the 100,000.
Yeah,
For the exterior,
Yeah.
it's like, just like a tiny bit over budget, right? Yeah, I don't know, I think it's great. Yeah. Looks like there's a lot of it to do. Yeah.
2 questions related. Is this a neutral color?
We can make it whatever you want, right?
Okay, and then the second was, once applied, can it be painted? So I've got a question. I have this idea that at some point in time, somebody might come along and say, you know what? That's actually a beautiful building. And we'll pay you millions of dollars to put our company name on your grade of it.
It's got that, driving. I didn't get that far.
But actually, so once it's applied, you're not getting over it, there's nothing wrong there.
Yeah, it's fun.
It is a paint, so you're good, but I wonder when you paint over it, does that somehow compromise the principle?
The stretches, I mean, I mean, it would probably have to be better last than paint, better as well. I understand you.
This will be a silly question then, but so. On the, so what is it going to look like? From a pure vanity standpoint?
I mean, we can make it whatever we want, it's like 1,000 color suite, a light gray.
But it's only going to be a small section of the entire side, right?
Yeah. It's 10 bins on the north side, and we wanted to do 2 bins on the south side, so we can see what it's like. Maybe,
Yeah, more so.
I would like to just do a more.
Yeah.
Well, eventually we want this. But this should give us a good sample to see what it's going to cost. Beautiful.
I want that drive. I want that drive in.
I just have one question with folks, so go ahead. You go, no, go ahead, in church, go ahead.
All right, so the only thing that rang to me was, why don't we just have the highest bidder do the 6 bids twice, because it will save us a few $1,000.
You know what?
What is with that?
That was all straight, and actually, I thought it was just the one guy that's. But it's the other guy. Actually, to look at this.
No, I'll just give that, no, I think we had this conversation.
How far.
like I said, it doesn't have a problem, but no, this looks good and yeah, we have talked about this, we saw the, we had a bigger presentation 6 months, I don't know if you guys stepped on this or not, but it was a bigger than previously, so no, it's definitely a good idea, and you know, and that's an assuming that's just recently been maintained. I know we talked about, you know, you have to have it basically, it's got to be fixed first and then you would paint over it.
Correct. The first time is been about 5 years ago, around there.
Yeah.
Or it's, and it's very good at those. It's a sort of, there's only combination.
Thank you.
It's okay. I just have one, you said that you wanna see, that's why you were only doing the 12 bins, that you wanna see how it is, and so on and so forth. So if you do 6 bins, it comes out to $8,200, and if you do 12 bins, it comes out to $8,500. So the 12 bins is more expensive than doing the 6 bins. I don't get it. That's all. That's just a question. Well, if you take the 50,000 per 6 bin, it comes out to that partner.
Say per bid.
Yeah, per bin. You do that, it's 8,200. 12 bin.
Right, it's gonna go longer than a month, then you gotta do all the rest, again and so on, right, so.
Okay, no, I just
Yeah.
saw this. So we're gonna go with the 12 bins. Is that what you want? Let's try.
We would like.
Mr. Stick?
Just say it works.
Yeah.
We did a similar thing, for some of our articles with the previous company and it worked.
It does work.
Yes, I can't remember the longevity, but that's the part I might be able to find it. Also.
The state's contract of this. Was had a big, it's straight 25 years.
Yeah. We did quite a few, not those many that we have here.
Hey, people, we have a recommendation. The Board of Management Committee recommends council to award the work to Saints contract in the amount of $101,980. Excluding HST. Contingency of 10%. And the Board of Management Committee recommends the council approve the Board General Manager to sign the purchase order. And you moved by Mayor DeShawn, seconded by Councilor Ward. All in favor? Okay. We're on the 8J dredging says slip project.
Thank you very much. Sure. I'll be doing that one. So just a little background, I gave some information on this way. By vessel maximum and seaway draft and so on, with the background on seaway depth and so on. But basically, we had some complaints about, well, concerns, that we weren't afraid that the seaway draft in all the areas in the slip, and so we did a sounding with Montana Southern, and we used them in the past, when we did our dock work. And then we did find some areas that were a little not as deep as they should be, and I think that is normal with waterway actually coming in and going out sort of thing, that slip. So I gave a little diagram of the area that we're going to be looking at. So we're basically estimating around 2,600 cubic meters as far as materials that will have to come out of there. Yeah, it's over 50,000, so we're bringing it to the committee. And as far as consider the financial considerations, we're basically looking at a budget of 275,000, including HST, and we had 2 bids. We had actually 4 companies show up for the mandatory meeting. I did expect some other bids, but we didn't get them. I can say that I'm very confident a little bit. I was actually quite happy that they were able to get the bid because they originally provided us the original budget, and they were the company that went ahead and helped us start permitting and so on, because they deal with it all the time. So some of that permitting is in their name, report, so it works quite well. And I know I don't like to see big gaps like this in get your bids like this. I would like to have one between for sure, but because we know that the company is going to be it's a little bit, we're very confident that they've done what it was before. I am recommending that we go ahead with Kehoe Marine to do the product.
Anything attached to the building is quality. Anything attached to the building is quality.
Yeah, they're beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. I have no issue with that.
No.
I just have one question, and it's not in relation to this. I 100% agree that this is something that needs to be done, has to be done. But I was a little, when I read through it, I just wasn't, what the heck, air draft at 33.5 meters.
That's more, your bridges, right? So you're about it, we want to know the paragraph or spouts.
Good, got it, no, got it, yep.
Everything else?
Additional information. So they remove all the snow, they put it on the shore someplace to dry, which cool idea, they use the landfill. But
Well,
that cost is us to move it.
yes. Yeah, so the plan is we don't want it on that dock, that's the
Yeah.
dock that we're gonna be issued with for dock, it is directly to truck, we're going to keep the work area. At the end of the slip, so it's not going to be down on the dock or we have more issues. And we're going to be loading direct to truck, we're going to be bringing it over to the area by the bins at this point. That's kind of an open area, parking area, well, we use it for parking, but sometimes we get the truck parking there, that's not supposed to, so we're going to be bringing it there, and then drive. Sort of thing, and then our plan is to take that and use it for the low areas, the warehouse, and we're developing the lands and behind there, we've got lots of holes and so on, so. That's where we'd like to move it, now, if you're moving it more than once, there's some cost there, but it slops, and you can't really move that stuff around, you kind of gotta let it drain out. We've done this before, we didn't directly, it's directly on the other front dock, and we build a berm around it, and just pile it in there, and it's kind of let it dry out. You know, a lot of drains away.
So the chair, just the green section we're doing there, that's highlighted. The rest of it's fine, I'm assuming, or?
Yeah, the rest is fine. If you look along the port dock, which is the opposite side of the sled, I guess the south, if you're looking at that picture, that's the dock that we're having a real issue with. We do not want to get close to that dock and start taking it around, so we're getting 50 meters from that dock. There are a few pockets here and there, but you don't, with ships the size that we're talking about, 225 meters of length, you don't need to worry about every single, if you look at the soundings, there's one little spot that you really don't need to worry about that. Where we have a little bit more dredging, maybe down the road, is on the other side of the elevator, there are some areas there. But before I get anywhere close to the elevator itself, as far as maybe like for dredging, I should say, we want to do an inspection, a diving inspection on the other side, just to see what we have there before we get too close. For the one that we're doing, we're staying on the other side of the new fenders. So we're going to be a good 2 meters, 3 meters away from the dock itself. So we're not going to get too close to that area. We don't need to, because the fenders gets out of that. Well, that's the plan. But to answer the question, there are other areas. They're not a concern right now, but there may be something down the road that we might have to look at on the other side.
And just lastly, I guess, just when we try to get the grammar of this, we can go. The 243 is including the 15% contingency or not?
It is not. It's just pretty close to budget though, it's, because we're good about it.
Yeah. That's good too.
Happy to move that as it is, if there's no more discussion.
Move. Move the recommendation, moved by Mr. Mayor, and seconded by Mr. Ward, all in favor. Carried. Electrical feeders. In the room, who's looking online, guys? 8K.
Okay, what's, I was thinking I wanted to say, I like the feeders in the marine. One of the calls on our respect, but on marine offers 1 and 2. These are typical for loading ships, we only have 4 offers running. Basically takes up 50% of our loading capacity if the cable was to fail. It has 2 fares and disconnection in the last 3 years. We were very fortunate that the failure happened at Johnson Mott and the open up to Apple. The middle of a condo, we've had a lot more issues getting that there. So the cable is at least 60 years old. I was in the cable business. I was approximately the cable of the lifespan 30 to 40 years. So we're beyond its normal lifespan. It's getting on the edge. So it's time wait for it to fail to do that maintenance on it, and like this is more predictable. To get that replaced, so the multiple 1120 feet of cable from our substation up to the water control center. We had 6 people come and look at the job and 5 people for the bids. See the range from B4, the lowest bid at 243,500. There's over the $180,000 we originally budgeted. That's the price of the treatment over the winter, I guess. So we're looking at $250,000 for the project. It should be noted that B4 that we originally asked them to remove the old cable out of the conduit and run the new cable in it. Everyone, all 5 contractors said no, thank you. They were intending to get that cable out of the conduit, they're one. The B4 did add in there that they will remove the cable from they're going to run it on the other side of the cable tray. So they want to remove the cable from the conduit for us, which is not up. So that we can recover the stuff by 3 900 MCM was copper, so what we're going to do is going to turn the money up a couple. But for this back, they're going to invest in everything from that. Only one of the 5. But you have to have a low price as well. The local guys, temporary, they've done work with before, we have with before. So we have a recommendation that we reward the project before left in the amount of $43,500. And what we particularly recommends council to the general manager to finance for on behalf of the.
Yeah, so I have no question.
No, I'm more concerned about a 60-year-old wire that affects that and not fixing this. 70 grand. I'm okay with 70 grand.
Did B4 Electric, you said that they've done work for us in the past? Okay, no issues. And they're Kempo? Okay, so they're local, so. This is okay, recommendation, you moved it? Mr. Mayor moved it, seconded by Mr. Ward, all in favor? Number 9, approval of disbursements, any questions, comments on that? We need to move it. Comments, questions? Mr. McCollum, no? Need a mover, please? Moved by Mr. Ward. Second by Mayor Deschamps, approval of the disbursement, all in favor? Carried. Also, inquiries and notification, anything? Mr. Mayor?
No inquiries. I would like to say thank you. If I don't know if this is a appropriate time or not, but I will thank you for the hospitality at the Spencerville Miller Golf Tournament. I can speak for I think all members of our team that we have an absolute blast, and if we're doing it again next year, I will say that. I think we firmly spank them, so. Just to be clear, so. But thanks, no, it was good, I think from a team thing, I think it was a lot of fun, I had a blast, it was good. Yeah, no, it was good.
The rumor has it we have
That's all we think of, that's all. Anything else in the inquiries, notifications, motions, no? Okay, move on to Number 11, chair's report, we have nothing. Number 12, question period, Mr. Reed. Okay, we're gonna go in camera, I think, as committee members, for tonight. Okay, your input.
I have that, that we when we close. and then take 5 minutes.
Yes.
Or whatever, okay, so moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Chris Ward, the committee proceeds into closed session. At 8:36 in order to address a matter pertaining to section 239(2)B labor relations, employees negotiations. Specifically collective bargaining update minutes of closed sessions 1 and 2 of May 23rd, 2020.
Good, and we'll take a 5-minute pause. All in favor? Take a 5-minute.
Moved by myself, seconded by Councilor Chris Ward, that the closed meeting of committee now does adjourn and the open meeting does now resume at 9:10 PM.
Call the question, all in favor? Okay. Do we approve the closed session? No. I'm reporting it.
Reporting out of the closed session.
Okay, reporting it. We're reporting it. Reporting out the closed session, the committee met in the closed session to discuss the collective bargaining. And the progress and to review the closed session minutes. Now I need to adjourn.
Nope, you don't, you need me to do a movement.
Oh,
I'm gonna move, to, that committee, sorry, moved by myself and seconded by Mayor Cory Deschamps. The committee receives and approves the minutes of closed sessions 1 and 2 dated May 23rd, 2000.
all in favor? Down here.
Now I have a motion, moved by myself and seconded by Councilor, Mayor. Moved by myself and seconded by Mayor Cory Deschamps. The committee now adjourned at 9:11 PM.
Thank you. All in favor?
Karen, I've never been to council. Didn't work. I've been deputy mayor.